Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we are taking a look at Dark Zell MC's Ultimate ED Contagion Trickster. This is an incredibly solid build guide that I highly recommend for you, and here is my thought process as to why this is my secret build that I have been laughing and giggling about for the last couple of days, that is going to be my starter and maybe even my boss killer, my end game build for this entire league. But I'm definitely excited to give the ED Trickster another shot this upcoming Metamorph league, and the reasons why are plentiful. One of them was as soon as the announcement was made by Grinding Gear Games that Legion was going to be back on the menu, boys, for Zana mods, I looked at that and just thought, well, if Legion's going to be back, then what was the best Legion farming build during Legion League? And of course, Essence Drain was it. Now, I myself love farming Legions. A lot of people thought they were mindless and numb. The reality is that the Atlas reshaping through the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion is going to massively change the way how we farm Legions. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be any less profitable. So it's a 6 chaos expenditure that you have to spend on your map device, and of course it is the topmost, so you're going to have to progress your Atlas quite a bit in order to get that. And what better build to kill bosses, progress the Atlas, and be relatively safe all at the same time other than Essence Drain Contagion Trickster. Now, this guide is got several different wonderfully written little tips and tricks for playing an ED Trickster. So if you played one in Legion, this still has value to you because there are things that Dark Zell is going to point out that you may have not known, or that you might simply have needed a refresher on. If you've never played an Essence Drain character, then there's never been a better time to do it. Chaos.builds have not gotten massive smacks like other particular builds did through the development manifesto and the patch notes, so we can definitely say that Essence Drain is at least as strong now for 3.9 as what it was in 3.8, and in 3.8 it realistically only got a small nerf due to Contagions with an AoE. So realistically, this is still an incredibly strong build, and the type of content that made it so popular during Legion League is back again on the menu in a controllable manner where you get to select the map layout that you would like to farm Legion on. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at Dark Zell taking on an Uber Elder with this particular guide. One of the things that I really appreciate about this particular guide is that they're realistically, just as Dark Zell says in the opening lines of his build, there are a couple of build guides out there for Essence Drain Contagion, but there aren't many that are diverse or that have been written with multiple different styles of content in mind. So for instance, back during Legion League, there were a whole bunch of guides that were written on how to farm low-level glacier farming for Legion encounters, but there weren't necessarily a whole bunch of guides that were shown on how to play an Essence Drain Contagion character, maybe for bossing, for endgame clear, or for map speed clear, other than for Legion farming. And so I really appreciate the level of depth that he goes into, and you can see here the level of safety that this particular build has. Even though it's only got just under 5k HP, it's an incredibly effective boss killer. The DPS is consistent, and because of course it's a dot build, you really only need to stop to cast every couple of seconds or so to reapply damage to a boss, and then the whole rest of your focus can be spent on staying alive and maintaining good positioning. So I would highly recommend that you do just like what I'm about to do, which is go to Dark Zellmac MC on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and that you ding the bell to be notified for any updates to his build guide and build videos that are coming out. Now, a couple of things to note here. He does have an updated path of building. That, of course, is included down below in the video description, along with all of our timestamps that are hot linked if you want to jump around and check out different things. Here's the build overview. This build has around 1.1 million Essence Drain DPS, 7 to 8k effective HP, and 2k effective regeneration per second. As any Essence Drain build, it relies on Essence Drain and Contagion for map clear and regeneration. It also has six free sockets in your chest where you can put any Chaos dot skill, whether that's Soul Rend or Bane, which Soul Rend just got a buff with the 3.9 patch notes, to effectively double your DPS to 2 million total DPS with Soul Rend. It differs from other ED Tricksters by being extremely tanky, utilizing many defensive layers to be very durable. viable. This was built to be hardcore viable. Some pros and cons on this. Pros, it's a fast mapper. It can kill all endgame bosses viable. He's even got some all kills on here, including deep delve bosses like all. It is hardcore viable. It's cheap, and it's got a clear upgrade path. The Shaper can be done on 3x, Uber Elder on an 8x. Now, of course, Shaper and Uber Elder are no longer our metrics for evaluating builds, so we'll see exactly what it's going to cost to kill the Awakener. But you can roughly estimate that to get this thing off the ground and to start clearing maps over the first weekend and opening week of Metamorph League, you're going to be able to do that on a cheap budget. A couple of cons of this build. I love that this particular guide creator actually goes into a longer list of cons than pros, because the pros there are just great, right? You can say fast mapper, and that entails a ton of different bonuses, right? You don't need to go into much more explanation than that. But not many build creators will actually tell you, hey, here are things that the build doesn't do well, so watch out for this. One of them is that it doesn't do the deepest delve bosses. So in other words, if your goal for Metamorph League is to go really deep, don't play this build. Next up, you're going to be a meta slave. I cannot imagine that there aren't hundreds of other people out there who had that same exact thought process that we've had right here in G3, when I know for a fact I went in the other night and was chatting with 2 other guild officers in Discord. I didn't tell them what my build was going to be, and they already told me what their build was going to be for League Starter. And then after they told me, I was like, well, since you guys already know the strength of ED Contagion, I can tell you that's what I'm going with as well. So like all 3 minds of us came together at the same time and said together, this is what we're going to do. Like, we were all thinking the same way. So whether or not it's going to be meta or dominate the meta in terms of popularity, I don't know. Maybe the 3 of us were just weird that way. But there's definitely going to be a couple of players playing this particular build. Another con is that this performs really poorly in the timeless domain, so the 4-way and the 5-way fight. It really requires heavy swaps for the Hall of Grandmasters. It can do it, but it requires you knowing how to farm Hall of Grandmasters and which particular characters you're going to bump up against in order to make the proper itemization swap. So I would not recommend this if you're looking to farm Hall of Grandmasters, or if you're looking to farm timeless domain, or if you're looking to do the deepest delving. Other than that, it's a pretty good build. Let's take a look at his path of building tree. You can see over here that he is, of course, a Trickster. He goes with Ghost Dance, as well as Escape Artist, and Patient Reaper, and Prolonged Pain for skill duration and for damage. Other than that, this particular tree is incredibly tanky for a number of reasons, for several reasons. One of them is, and I cannot believe that GGG hasn't nerfed this yet, is because of acrobatics and phase acrobatics. The best way to not take damage in Path of Exile is to not get hit, right? That's really using your brain. Well, this particular build is going to go all out on making sure that it does not get hit. You can see right here, his attack dodge chance is 74%, and his spell dodge chance is 60%. His block chance is 13%. If you don't get hit, you can't get hurt. His evade chance is 74%. With the amount of evasion that he's got. Now, again, you're not going to start out that way. That's not a reasonable expectation for you, even necessarily within the first week. But it is something to build towards, realizing that if you don't get hit, you're not going to die. If you don't die, you don't lose XP, which means you get more passives to dump into your build. Couple of different things for you to really pay attention to for your damage. Unlike many other builds where you're going to rely on, let's say, grabbing weapon particular big wheels, or maybe you're just going to grab a whole bunch of jewel slots and those are going to give you the bulk of your damage. The bulk of your damage on the tree for an essence drain character is going to come from this one particular mod, which is Chaos Damage Over Time Multiplier. That is, in fact, a multiplier. It does a bunch of extra damage that is going on to your essence drain and to your contagion, or if you're using Soul Rend as another utility skill. So that's really what you're going to focus on. So down here, Method to Madness is one of the areas where you're going to want to grab that. Up here, over Growth and Decay, that's increased damage over time, as well as another damage over time multiplier. And then up towards the top, we've got Atrophy, which is also a Chaos Damage Over Time multiplier, increase to Chaos damage, as well as increased cast speed with Chaos skills. Sometimes not having enough cast speed on Essence Drain Contagion can actually end up having you killed, because you'll make the mistake mechanically of standing still to cast both Essence Drain and Contagion, and then you're standing there to cast 2 things and they're both kind of slow, and so a boss or a pack just hits you, just straight up. So the more cast speed you can have on the build, it's just a nice quality of life to be able to stop really quickly, fire your Essence Drain, apply your Contagion, and then keep running. Away you go. Up here in the very top left of the Witch Tree is Corruption, which is, again, another big-time multiplier for your Chaos damage for both Contagion and for Essence Drain. Essentially, for defenses, you're going to want to come and grab Mind Over Matter. I always say Mind Over Mana. That's not what it is. It's Mind Over Matter. And the reason for this is because this gives us a ton of effective HP. You're going to want to scale up mana on this build, actually, as a secondary stat. So in other words, if you're looking at a rare item and you've got room to craft on it, or you've got room to slam on it, you're going to want to look for mana rolls on those items. If you've just got junk rolls otherwise that you've got open. If you can grab mana, it essentially turns into effective HP, and because we don't necessarily need to reserve a whole bunch of mana for a whole bunch of different auras, we can afford to do that on this particular build. Other than that, pretty simple and straightforward Essence Drain Contagion tree. You're going to grab as much life as you can by coming over and grabbing things like Blood Drinker and grabbing some Energy Shield and health with melding, and then of course on your way up to Corruption you're going to grab Cruel Preparation for some more life and some life and mana with Heart and Soul. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward Chaos dot tree for this particular Trickster. In terms of the skills of this particular tree, how do you set up Essence Drain to be a successful skill to carry you through the game? Well, Essence Drain scales incredibly well with the level of gem. It is a spell gem. So, spells in general, as a general statement, spells scale harder with gem levels than attacks do in Path of Exile, and attack-based gems scale harder with weapons than spells do. It's just a general statement. It's not always true, but that's a general truism of Path of Exile. And so Essence Drain, if we can get it with tons and tons of levels by using an Empower and corrupting it to either level 3 or 4, it's very, very helpful for our damage. So you're going to want to set up Essence Drain, Efficacy, Controlled Destruction, Swift Affliction, and Void Manipulation. Note, the reason for all of these is because they are going to increase the dot that Essence Drain actually deals. Now, Contagion, you might have remembered that we said that there's an extra 6 link that you can use. Contagion, you can put it on a 6 link if you'd like to, but most oftentimes what I find myself doing is putting Contagion actually in my gloves, my helm, or my boots, and then throwing it as a 4 link, and then again using either Bane or Soul Rend or some other auxiliary skill as a 6 link. So Contagion you're going to want to set up with Intensify, Increased Area of Effect, and Faster Casting. Again, the damage for Contagion isn't actually going to come from Contagion because Contagion spreads the Essence Drain damage as it continues to proliferate throughout packs on your screen. So you apply Essence Drain once, fire away, and boom, away it goes. One other little trick that I've done with Essence Drain before is actually to add projectiles onto Essence Drain, either through using Dying Sun or using like LMP or GMP. And it's just funny to see Essence Drain as it goes. I've even done an Essence Drain Pierce build before, which was just wacky and silly. But there's lots of different quality of life things that you can do with Essence Drain to make sure that it's hitting. Like if you're having problems getting that one Essence Drain dot to apply onto a pack, and maybe you want to fire it with a couple extra projectiles, you can do that and then apply your Contagion and boom, away goes the screen. If you're farming a Legion pack, for instance, fire Essence Drain once, apply your Contagion, and boom, you've just popped the entire Legion pack. And beware, because in about 2.6 seconds, the entire Legion pack is going to come after you, so be aware of that. In terms of auras that you are going to use, you are going to be using Discipline to give you a bit of Energy Shield, Malevolence, again, to give you increased damage, and then Flesh and Stone for your defenses. Now, in terms of another utility skill that is essential for bossing with this particular league, of course, there's lots of bosses to take down, is going to be a Wither Spell Totem. This is incredibly important because Wither is going to, again, act as a damage multiplier for you. So if you can set up a Wither Spell Totem for you, you are again running around every once in a while applying Essence Drain Contagion, and Wither is actually sitting in a stationary spot, allowing your damage to ramp up. Another thing that you can do if you really want to go all out on the embracing of chaos damage is you can even use Blight. You could use the Alepathy Unique Gloves and use the spell Blight, which is a channeled skill. You can use Vol Blight in order to blow up whole packs. I love doing that whenever I'm farming Legions, but it's just another option for you because all of the damage that you're scaling with your Chaos Dot for Essence Drain is also going to apply and be very helpful for using Blight. Lastly, let's go over a couple of the items that are included on this build and recommended. The Cane of Unraveling is a staff. Yes, I know so many people out there go, why would you ever League start with a staff? Well, it's a really, really good staff. It gives +2 to level of all Chaos spell skill gems. That's not just the spell skill gems inside the staff. It's all of them. Meaning that you're getting additional levels to your Essence Drain, if that's 6 linked in your staff, and you're getting additional levels on, let's say, your Wither and your Wither Totem, and let's also say, well, you're getting additional levels onto your Contagion, and let's say you're using Soul Rend onto your Soul Rend, right? So all of these different Chaos tagged spell gems are going to get additional levels thanks to the Cane of the Unraveling. You also get some increased Chaos damage, some increased Chaos over time multipliers, and then if you generate some power charges, you get some additional cast speed. And of course, you gain a power charge after spending a certain amount of mana. One of the things that you can do to help proc this, again, is to use Blight. Because it's a channeled skill, it's really easy to ramp up your mana usage. Your helmet is going to be the Vertex Vol Mask. This gives +1 to level of socketed gems. Again, so if you're combining this with the Cane of Unraveling and you choose to put, I don't know, let's say Contagion in there, that's another 3 levels onto Contagion. It also gives some decent evasion and some decent energy shield. On top of that, you've got body armor, which is going to be Hiri's Ire. Hiri's Ire, of course, got a big nerf, and I believe the reason why we are using Hiri's Ire, he's actually got this here explained. Best in slot is Hiri's Ire. It has insane evasion. This is his just straight up explanation, which, as you can see, evasion rating 2,033. This amount of evasion rivals, I believe, like Legacy Queen of the Forest. Like, that's how much evasion is on this. This is just fantastic in terms of the flat amount of evasion that it provides. And then on top of that, it also gives a 10% chance to dodge attacks and 10% to dodge spells. Now, he says it has insane evasion, giving us 500 flat ES on our Ascendancy. The dodge and spell dodge are also really cool, allowing us to reach the dodge cap. Perfect Form is another option, but it does not offer as many benefits as Hiri's Ire. I'll go over it in the popular alternatives sections. Okay, so Hiri's Ire is it, and since so many bow players aren't going to be rushing for Hiri's Ire now because it got nerfed for bow players, we can actually take advantage of this and use this for our evasion-based build. All right, in terms of gloves, you're just looking for primarily rare gloves that are going to give you life and resistances, but if you want to, you can go with Telepathy. Then if you'd also like to go with rare boots that are going to give you life as well as movement speed, and then as needed, you are going to get some resistances on there. Your amulet is primarily there for stat requirements, and then other than that, just life as well as resistances. Rings are life and resistances all the way. Your belt is going to be flat life, flat ES, and then as needed for resistances. And then your particular jewels that you're going to look for are, again, going to be life for your Abyssal Jewel. And then other than that, you're looking for increased damage over time and life. That's what you're looking for. There is a unique jewel that is quite helpful for you. It's called the Green Nightmare. It gives you gain 5% of cold damage as extra chaos damage. Passives granting cold resistance or all elemental resistance in radius also grant chance to dodge attacks at 35% of its value. That's why it is located in the spot that it's located on the tree for the Green Nightmare, because of course it is helping us to get to those caps for dodging attacks. Again, if you don't get hit, you can't get hurt. Well, thanks so much for watching today's video. Feel free to drop a comment down below to let us know what you're going to be playing, if you're thinking like some of the rest of us in the G3 Guild, because we are definitely going to be going with this ED Trickster. I am very excited for the ED Trickster. It is one of the most chill gameplay styles that I've ever experienced outside of just playing a summoner. And you don't have to summon a whole bunch of stuff. So it's like all the chillness of being a summoner, just hitting 1 or 2 buttons as needed, and then letting stuff die as you continue to go by. And so I really appreciate that. And with Legion coming back, yeah, this is going to be a fun league to farm as an Essence Drain Contagion Trickster. So I'm certainly going to enjoy it. And I hope that this league, 3.9 Metamorph League, is the league when a Mirror of Calandra drops for you while you're playing Dark Cell's MC ED Trickster. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.